Okay, bye. Yeah.
You're being recorded, by the way. But
So, Global Roofing Group has been in business since 1971. We've been in business for over 50 years. We have over 550 employees. We pride ourselves on a culture of safety. We have 14 full-time safety staff that offer monitoring. We're licensed in 18 states. We have locations in Phoenix, Tucson, Colorado, Vegas, loosely in Reno and Salt Lake. So we do have a full-time service department that handles leak repairs, handles maintenances, handles you name it. And then we also have a new software that we're using, kind of a beta testing, and it's called FCS. So we'll talk to you guys a little bit about that at the end, and you see one of the brochures, we talk about that as well. And then we have our RSW app that we use for our production side to help people do the work. So talk a little bit about who we got here. So we got Tyson. Martin Tyson is our executive VP of production. So he was nice enough to tag along with us today. We got Robert Stroll, who's our Arizona sales manager, and then we have Matt Cummings, who is our vertical development manager for Arizona. Next slide. On the mouse, so not right. So for you guys, we got some things here, and I know it was nice to provide a list of kind of things you guys want to learn about, but I want to ask you, I mean, we have people come to our office all the time and do presentations and they just kind of spiel, and then we don't really get much out of it because they tell us they want us to know, but not what we really want to know. So I'd like to ask you guys, what do you guys run into on roofs? What are the things that are most concerning to you? You know, is it warranty? Is it, you know, what you really need to do to maintain the roof? You know, I know getting ready for monsoons, that's stuff that we talk about as well. Is there a particular item that really kind of concerns you, or that you guys are struggling with, or have questions?
Old ballasted roofs.
Ballasted roofs. Right.
yeah, I can throw a couple things out there that I think are just overall important and kind of where our involvement on roofs is. I mean, what should these guys be looking for when they're walking different types of roofs? I mean, we know the basics, looking for penetrations and that kind of stuff, but you know, identifying maybe more specific things that they can look at. And when you talk about warranty, there's always kind of a big thing out there about not voiding a warranty. Well, I know there's, you know, repairs that we can do in a pinch if somebody can't get out for a week to stop something. So maybe cover that. What's not going to void your warranty, and what can you do?
So, we'll start with the different types. Talk a little bit about ballasted roof, and then talk about what to look for and some of those problems. Okay.
Well, sketch up. So as you guys know, we've got multiple different types of roof systems. I'm assuming the majority of the roofs you guys are dealing with are low slope flat roofs. You guys aren't dealing too much slope tile or anything like that. All right, so we're gonna skip steep slope then. We'll go right into coatings. Coatings and spray foam are kind of two of the same. Coatings can be put on to do a restoration over a built-up roof system. They can be a restoration over a single-ply roof system, over metal roof system. But most commonly are put over foam roof systems, which you guys may see a lot where you see blisters coming up in your roofs. Sometimes they bust open, you can see the yellow foam inside. So those are your foam and coating systems. Different types of coating, there are acrylics, urethanes, silicone, aluminum. I mean, aluminum looks like aluminum. The biggest issues you're gonna have, acrylics are easy to maintain. You could use almost anything to pass these types of roof systems. When you get into urethane silicone systems, you are now more defined to silicone products. Kind of the difference, you can pass around silicone. Yep. Pass this around. Silicone's gonna get dirtier faster, but at the same time, it's slicker. It's got more of a smooth finish to it. Where your acrylic coating is going to be out there. Still white and will still get dirty, but it doesn't have that slippery feel to it. So when you're up on a roof and you kind of just rub your foot on it and it really wants to slide, you more likely to have a silicone system coating up there, and therefore you're going to be a little bit more restricted on the products that you can use to do your repairs. They've got silicone sealants, little buckets of silicone, butter grade type products that you guys can use to patch that kind of work. When you get with your acrylics, again, you've got a little more flexibility. You can use silicone on acrylic to do your patchwork. You can't ever go back and do a repair there again, it's not silicone. But urethane, polyurethane sealants. There's a lot of acrylic butter grades out there, almost every supplier you go to, even your Home Depots and Lowe's. You can get butter grades that will patch your acrylics. You get into aluminum's kind of like silicone, where it's very tricky. When you get into aluminum, you're only gonna go back with aluminum. You're not gonna be able to put an acrylic product over aluminum coated roof or aluminum coated repairs. So ideally, if I'm you guys, I do my best. If it's an acrylic roof system, stay with acrylic products. Because again, as soon as you go to one of these others to do repairs on that roof, you're stuck. You know, forever going back with kind of that same like product. If you've got an aluminum coated roof system, you gotta go there. If you got a silicone coated system, you gotta go silicone. Emulsions, neoprene based coatings. I don't think I see too much.
Here,
Yeah.
One of the biggest things, guys, I would tell you that if somebody comes up and do a patch on your roof, if they tell you they want to use a silicone and you don't have a silicone roof, you're now committing to using a silicone. Because once you put silicone on a roof, it'll stick, you can do a patch on it, it's gonna be great. But if you ever go back to coat over that, you can never coat that over again with anything except for silicone. There's nothing else you can do silicone but silicone. So if you have an acrylic roof and someone wants to do a patch on it, just be mindful of what they're using, it's really important. I don't know how many roofs I walk, I go walk roofs, and it's an acrylic coated roof, but then they find somebody did this massive 20 by 20 foot patch, they did a really good job. And you look at it, it's all shiny, they did silicone, and now the owner wants us to put a recoat over it, and now we can't. Like now the other day, I go back with this ridiculously expensive silicone versus the moderately priced acrylics. And because somebody allowed them to put a patch on the roof with silicone, they've now committed that you have to tear it off, or have to tear off that section of coating to recoat the whole rest of its roof. If I want everything to match. So it's really important that you know what kind of coating is on your roof.
And it's a good point. I just did a recoat off Mayo Boulevard for Artist Week. And every single penetration up there, they used silicone to do the repairs. Now it's a large enough roof that it was still more cost effective to go and cut out the silicone around every single penetration and curve up on that roof and go with an acrylic system than it was to just go back to silicone on the top of the whole thing. So very important, not to mention, it's more expensive. So if you've got an acrylic system and you can stay with acrylic products, you're gonna keep your costs down. And you got more flexibility in the repairs that you can do.
If you have a gouge, you have a crack or crease or something in it, you can just use a butter grade like Rob was talking about. You get a butter grade seal. It's basically like the consistency of a caulk, but it's a grade seal in it. And you can just put that over the top of it. That'll make a great simple repair until we get out there and do more permanent repair.
All right. Let's figure out. Oh, before, any questions on coatings?
So never use silicone on top of acrylic. Right? That's what I know.
Unless you have a silicone roof, stay away from silicone products.
If you get to the coffee and you're fixing something that's no big a deal, they'll take a bucket of coating and they'll coat it.
Don't do it 20 by.
And once you have it. Is it always?
I did all 20.
Okay. You don't see a lot of aluminum, you usually see a VUR roast, it's granular cap sheet roast. But not a lot sticks to that either, I don't think anything.
You can do that sometimes, but you have to do a full test. You can't sometimes practice, but it goes over, but then you have to do a full test, make sure it passes the full test, make sure that they can actually.
You don't see a lot of.
No, I don't want to come across a couple times, but yeah, I'd stay away from one of them as much as you can, unless it's an emergency, you've got nothing else on hand. I would say.
So I have a question. So in the morning, I was like debating whether I should use acrylic or silicone because where I was like doing the whole 20 by 20 flat surface, it's all cracked and peeling. So I was like, well, I threw acrylic on there, but that's what I was asking. I was like, So I guess I did a good thing.
Yes, and you know, some of it's gonna depend on how bad it's cracking. Because I will tell you this, if it's an acrylic and it's cracking really bad, Then you may wanna use a silicone product, because you go back with an acrylic, and if it's crazy, like cracking all over the place and
Yeah.
peeling, the acrylic's not gonna last. Basically, that acrylic that's already there is failing to a point where you're doing a temporary repair, which is great. But you're gonna, if you want a permanent repair, then you're probably gonna wanna go with silicone in that matter. And honestly, if it's doing that, then it's probably time to get someone out to inspect the roof for a re-roof. Yeah, or emulsion coating or something like that, full restoration at that point.
Now, kind of a caveat about that too, is cementitious, right? We want to talk about that cementitious.
Are you guys familiar with cementitious? So it's basically a coated system, but it's really rough, right? It's got your rock and your gravel embedded in it. It's still white. I wish we had a sample of it. It's more rough than this is. This is just granules. You want to pass that around? Cementitious almost feels like there's gravel embedded in the top of it. I would say out of all the pull tests I've done on a cementitious roof, acrylics have passed maybe 10% of the time.
That's what I was doing with. It had gravel all over it, it's all loose and stuff. I was like, damn,
So cementitious wouldn't be loose.
no,
That might be granules, like the sample I just passed around.
Unless it's cracking or crazing, if the cementitious is cracking and starting to
yeah, it's like.
kind of shed, then yeah, but otherwise you're.
Yeah.
But it don't look like this anymore.
Are you able to like broom?
Yeah,
Yeah. Then that's probably granules, yeah. Cementitious will crack, but that's normal. I mean, if it peels, that's not good. But if you're up on a cementitious roof and you're seeing cracking and grazing, that's totally normal.
Okay.
Yeah. Peeling's different. Anytime you see peeling, then we're having a system failure. And you know, do what you can to temporarily get yourself waterproofed. But I would get someone out to do an inspection and take a look at it and see kind of what your options are. Immediately, the longer you wait on coating roofing systems, the harder they are to repair or recoat. And they will get to a place where we just can't recoat them anymore, and then we've got to do an emulsion or some kind of a board and an overlay system at the top of it, so.
One, and kind of piggybacking on that, one thing you gotta think about coatings as well, is coatings, as you all probably can't do it two ways, honestly. Where coating doesn't count as another roof system. If you don't take care of that coating and maintain it, and it's over, say, a melt-up roof or, you know, any kind of other roof, and then you're gonna have to tear that off, because you can't put another roof over the top of the actual roof. So that's where you're coating, you never wanna let it get to like the bare bones, you get to the, before you really have to talk about it, you wanna make sure that you're maintaining that, you're keeping up with it, and you're getting recoated, you know, as often as you need to, or often that it gets fired, because otherwise you're gonna, will tear off, it's gonna cost a lot, more than just coating it.
What's the point of putting so many rocks in the roof?
Granules, they're typically for, I think I wanna say ICC, they're fire ratings, right? Granules like takes you from class C to class B, cementitious gets you class A. So it's really, I would say more so, we will use granules on block paths. So if we're doing a different color on a coated roof, we'll do a different color coating to emphasize the walk path to HVAC units and whatnot from your roof access. There's usually granules embedded in there for slip resistance.
Yeah, so a lot of times you see that only on foam roofs. Foam roofs get sprayed and the foam rises, it doesn't have a fire rating in it, a lot of times it's over plywood.
Yeah.
So because it's over plywood and because the system doesn't have a board or a cover board that has a fire rating that's underneath of it, the granules are creating the fire rating, and then we'll put wet gallons of coating down, we'll put so many gallons down, and then we'll throw the granules in, they call it a lock system. We do it, we throw it in while they're wet, so they lock, and then after it dries, they throw a bunch more granules on top, which is why the guy in the middle back there said that he had a bunch of granules that can rip off the roof. So you guys have to lock in the granules, they throw a bunch more on top, and then as the wind and the rain and you know, the weather hits the roof, they end up getting packed down by the drains, after a year or two of the service line stuff. But yeah, it's from the fire rating.
And you'll find a lot of times too, the roofers are just lazy, because once you put that final product out in granules, there's a.
Yeah.
It's supposed to sweep them up after they do their last, they're supposed to let that last layer of coating clear with the granules. And then come back and sweep up what's loose and get it off the roof. Sometimes they leave them and you go up and you'll have a mess of it, granules all over the place. Especially once it starts raining, water's moving them towards your drains and things like that, scuppers. You'll often find a lot of granules piled up in your drain scupper areas. This is polyurethane foam. We've talked about it a little bit because this is protected by the coating. So, you know, this product is waterproof, it's great. You go over so many different roof systems with it. If you have one roof existing, and your coating basically is a sunscreen to this. So, you know, literally this is waterproof as it is right then and there. But the sun gets a hold of it for too long and it goes from a closed cell to an open cell and now allows water in. So typically when we spray our foam, we'll get an immediate coat over it. And that kind of locks it in and seals it, even if you have to come back later and do your top coat after maybe there's other work going up there, HVAC work, whatever the case is. We can put the foam down, we can put one little layer of coating, you can beat it up a little bit, and we can come back and put our final coating in a few small repairs, and you still got a brand new roof when you're done.
And we're talking recoating roofs, this is the normal, this is the general way they do it, right? And then as far on the recoating, you guys, I'm sure are gonna get to warranty in a little bit, but can you go over, I mean, I know there's different levels to warranty, is that based on how many layers of this you're putting down, or with a product, or what is that based on?
When it comes to warranting your spray foam roof systems, it's typically gonna be the amount of coating you're putting on top of it.
The mill length, so the
Yes.
more millage that you get, the better.
Yeah.
And then the caveat to that is getting cementitious coating is a little bit different in that way, because it's basically a lightweight concrete that's kind of diluted down, and that's what goes to the whole block basically. So that's where it's a little bit different on that, but otherwise it's the mill layers that are on top of that roof. The sunscreen, how many layers of that sunscreen is on the roof?
Yeah, how many gallons of coating we put on the roofs? We measure it in wet mills so that we know what it's gonna be when it's dry. And the calculation's based off how much the UVs strip off the top of it every year. So to get a 20-year warranty, you have to have so many wet mills that provide so many dry mills that will allow that to last for 20 years with the sun's UV staying. And so it's based off basically the elements.
And that's gonna vary for depending on the coating you're using. You know, most acrylics, 3 gallons is gonna get you a 10-year. 4 gallons is gonna get you a 15-year, and 5 gallons per 100 square feet that is gonna get you a 20-year. You go to silicones, it's gonna come down in the amount of gallons you use, but you're gonna spend more money on it. So again, it varies kind of what product you're using, and even the manufacturers vary a little bit. But when it comes to foam, if you got an existing foam roof you're taking care of, that's what I was talking about earlier, when you see those blisters. When those blisters start popping up, it typically means that you've got some water exposure in that area. We'll see it a lot where you got swamper coolers up there that constantly leak on the roof. And you can follow the path from the swamp unit all the way to the drains, and you got little blisters popping up all the way. That's because ultimately it's gone on for too long, the coating's starting to fill and the water's now breaking into your phone system.
We have an online question. I think I'm a little late on it. What product do we recommend to make emergency repairs?
We have a couple different products we can go over for that, but we can definitely dive into that.
Do we wanna do, are you guys gonna get to that a little bit
We
later?
get that,
Okay.
So,
Again, if you got a blister or two, those are real easy. We can cut those out, we can pass it back in with foam, we can recoat them, and you're repaired and good. When you start seeing multiple blisters, that's probably the time to get a roofing contractor out, do an inspection. We may have to cut out a hole, it could be 20 feet by 20 feet. It just depends on how bad that affected area is, because you basically have bad foam now underneath there. And we want to get it out from the deck up. And if the rest of the roof is good, if it's just maybe, I've seen it literally a line of swamper units, everything down the drain is blistering and popping and falling apart. Everything above those units is still in great shape. So, go ahead.
Do you guys sell individual foam pack repair kits?
prop packs? We don't sell that, no.
We use them.
Yeah, we use them, but we don't sell prop packs. Yeah, so if you're familiar with using prop packs, that would be the way to repair it. You can get a prop pack, put it down, grind it down, and then you have to coat that though, because it's not UV stable like Robin mentioned, it's not UV stable, so it's gonna deteriorate. So the biggest goal when you're doing that on foam roofs is if you start seeing blisters, just maintain them. Make sure that they're not getting ruptured, that somebody's not stepping. And on that, you want to understand that a blister in a roof is not a warranty item, it's an aesthetic item. Once it's stepped on, then there's a whole other issue with that, okay, now it's a rupture. Well, it doesn't necessarily make it a work out, but it does make it something that you gotta make sure you take care
I
of.
don't think if you have one, or if you have 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have one, you guys can handle this.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, it might not be a warranty, or it's not, it's not cracked open and you got 1 or 2 or 5, 5 or 6 blisters in your roof, don't worry about it. Unless it's cracked open, unless it's leaking, it's not a warranty issue. That's what I'll try to say.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
You know, but if you got 100 blisters up there that are not cracked open, then you might wanna call your roofer and say, hey, maybe there's something wrong with my roof.
If it's normal, then it's fine, but they're everywhere.
If they're everywhere, it's not.
Last week,
Yeah.
he had one call.
So there can be some situations as well where you have moisture in the interior of the building though, depending if they've changed things on the interior of the building, where you're getting moisture and you're getting vapor pressure, you're getting pressure pushing up, that can actually cause problems. And it has nothing to do with the roof itself. The roof didn't cause it, but you have, high vapors inside there, so if they're doing things that the building wasn't intended for originally and they're not venting it correctly, you can end up with that same problem.
And if you start to get blisters and they're popping, they're starting to crack and blister open. And your foam kind of looks like this, that blister's probably fairly new. It didn't crack open that long ago. Where you can cut out just a little bit of it, you can use a froth pack, shave it smooth, recoat it, and you're good. You can use butter grade. When you look at a blister that's popped open and it looks burnt, like it starts to turn more of an orange color, that foam is bad. That foam is bad to where you either want to get all the way down the deck now before you do your patch, or you want to call someone out to take a look at it.
If you guys are just a trick of the trade, if you guys are cutting a blister open, always V cut. Okay, always cut at an angle, don't just cut, like, say, if you have a crack, like, it's probably the best example, if you have a crack in the roof, don't just go fill the crack with concrete. Cut the foam into a V, fill that whole V full of concrete.
It will just continue to crack.
Cutting the foam in a V for some reason, stops it from growing, stops it from continuing.
And 99% of us, myself included, don't do that. Call a roofer.
You know what, back then you could.
Now again, foam is watertight. So if you got froth packs on you. And you've got a penetration that's busted open and you got leaks, you can use it. It's temporary. It's not permanent, because again, there's no UV stabilizer in the foam. But if you're in a pinch, the foam will get you watertight. You can use a froth pack for an emergency repair if you need to. Any questions on foam?
Fun fact about foam, the original owner of our company, Keith Colcraft, wrote the specs for Navy wall foam and invented foam for the world. So the original owner of our company created foam, any foam you buy in a can or Home Depot, anywhere. He was the original chemist who was hired by the Navy to create Navy wall foam. Got out of the Navy, moved to Arizona, didn't know what else to do, and created roofing foam.
Wow.
And now it's all over the world. Wow. Because of the Navy, but the original owner of our company wrote the original specs for the first foam.
That's cool.
So is there any difference between the polyurethane foam on the roof and using for insulation inside residential?
Yes.
What's the difference over the two?
There's closed cell, open cell, there's density levels, there's
Typically in the home
there's a ton of different reasons why you get different R values or insulation values out of it and densities. A lot of times the wall foam you get in your walls is a lot less dense. Like if you could walk on the wall foam where you could walk on our foam. The exact differences I couldn't tell you. But there's major chemical differences. Same thing when you buy the cans that you buy at Home Depot, it's like fixing a gap around a door frame or something, it's not the same. Now, what he was saying about using foam to fill a gap, you can use a little can of foam to fill a gap. If you have you're in an emergency, it will work. If you go to Home Depot and buy a can of foam and you want to spray it around, but it won't last long.
It's temporary.
Yeah.
Any more questions on foam? Okay, so now we're gonna go to our VUR. These are our VUR modified vitamin systems. Basically known as hot tar. Something modified can be torched down. I don't know a lot of guys out here to do torch.
No.
Yeah. You guys are probably gonna look very similar. You know, one's going down on asphalt, one's going down, with flame. And then some of them are self-adhered, we even have cold app adhesives that they can fully adhere cap sheets. Essentially, your repairs, they might vary a little bit, just because modified can be a little trickier than a standard built-up cap sheet when it comes to doing repairs. If you know you have a modified system, which could be an SPS or APP are the two most common you're gonna come across. You wanna use a modified mastic to do your repairs. You can get away with urethane sealants, polyether sealants will work on both. Urethane will work on both, but if you're using mastics, your black sticky stuff, you wanna use a modified mastic if you're doing an SPS or APP roof. And you can use a standard mastic on your built-up roofs to do your repairs. The most important thing is if they're temporary, you can get up there and slap it down and stop your leak and do what you need to do. If you wanna do a permanent repair, you gotta use fabric. We call it 3-course. So basically, you're gonna put a nice layer down to the mastic first. If it's a seam that's opened up, wherever the case is, then you're gonna go with some fabric. Then you're gonna go back with another layer of mastic over the top.
Usually put some granules in that last layer.
Yeah, no, they'll put granules typically over the top for UV protecting. But essentially, if you don't put that fabric in there, you're gonna get a few months out of it, the sun's gonna hit it, the solvents release, and it just cracks and splits right back open. And you may have seen a lot of repairs up there, you got a bunch of black sticky stuff, they're all still cracked. And they probably lasted 6 months, especially in this heat, in these UV. If you really want that repair to last, you gotta 3-course, you gotta use the fabric in there. On the built-up systems, you can use all those acrylic. We can put foam over built-up if you're doing another roof. We can do acrylics, we can do silicones, you can do aluminums, you can do all those over built-up system as a restoration. So if you've got one built-up roof, if you got two technically, and you want to restore it and leave it in place, it's not falling apart too bad. We can go back and we can restore the system in place. And I don't know the difference between your restoration and your re-roofing. The biggest thing, one, obviously, restoration is a lot less expensive, easier to maintain, but it's gonna be your tax benefits. You know, restoration roofs can be written off that year, where re-roofs are depreciated over however many years that warranty is, so. I know you guys probably don't get too much into that, but you have a lot more flexibility with repairing these roofs than let's say an existing coating or foam roof.
You can also, in a pinch, this isn't a permanent repair, but you can also use this, I'll pass some of this down, you guys can kind of check it out. But you can use this as a temp repair, and then you just walk around.
It's like a peel stick, you peel the back and throw.
Peel the back off, it's really sticky on the
Turn on,
This stuff's great for repairs.
yeah.
You don't get mess on yourself.
So is this stuff that works on just these built-up type roofs, or will this work on the coastal?
Yeah.
So is this something that an engineer should be looking at their manager and saying, hey, we need to get a pole or whatever of this and keep it on site?
It will not last very long.
Yeah, it's gonna last forever, but you could put it up there as a temp repair.
Yeah, like
it.
roof company can't get out for a week, we need to do
Put
something.
a big cloth around the edges, you should be good to go. One big thing I say though is make sure you round your corners, and knots can start filling up on you, so just make sure when you're cutting it, just kind of round your corners, get one edges on that, but round your corners. And then, like say, you can roll it, you can roll it down, just make sure that you're good.
I was gonna say, if you're gonna buy a roll of this, get a roll.
Yeah,
And you can get those at Home Depot or wherever, but it's a pressure sensitive tape. So if you just use your hand to rub it on, there's a good chance, especially if it rains, it's gonna come off.
Is that the stuff that looks like, that might be tar?
What's that?
Is that stuff right there that looks like tar, and when you undo it?
Nope.
It's
Nope.
this.
Nope.
Cause when I used to work for Directive, we used to use one that looks like tar. And then we peel it, put it down before we put the stuff like down.
There's
black.
So those had asphaltic bases in them, which limited what types of roof they could be used on. Where this is more of a pitch thing, where you can use this on a lot more variety of roofs. And it won't come off, yeah.
is that something that, random question, does it have like a shelf life on it, like can they store it for a year and it'll go bad?
The only issue I'll tell you is your truck in Arizona, if you don't keep these little things on here like this, you're not gonna get it apart, because we're having to start to melt together,
Yeah.
it's so hot. So you just wanna make sure to keep these little ends on there, or use something else that looks like some crap paper or something, to make sure that it doesn't, Once it gets melted together, it's really tough and it gets nasty on there.
Yeah, don't leave it in your truck.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Leave it in that, you just want it, that's it.
Oh.
You gotta have it.
Any questions on built up roofs, modified roofs?
Ask questions, guys, if you have them, this is the time.
On that roll right there, do they also make it in like two by two patches? And I've seen a lot of them on my.
They have larger size rolls.
Yeah.
So larger width, but they're not, I've never seen them, I'm not saying they don't, but I've never seen where you just actually buy a patch like that. But they do make larger, I think it's 12 inch rolls, but they
If
make.
you're seeing patches like that, probably it's a membrane roof.
Yeah.
Then you're seeing, what you're seeing are potted rolled patches.
Should be.
What you're seeing are colored permanent patches.
And they do have peel and stick membranes out there too, where you can do a peel and stick roof and make patches out of that. Where you may still see the tackiness or whatever going around it. But for the most part, they're gonna be heat fused. I mean, that's gonna be the best way to do repair. You guys have heat guns?
Not most of them, I mean, maybe at some of the stationary buildings, they might have them, but no, most guys aren't carrying a heat gun around.
Then I would stick with this.
Yes.
This is a roller, again, mastic is nasty. I look at it, it ends up in my shoes and then on my hands, and then it's in my bathroom when I get home. And it's
What about a single ply roof, which he's gonna get you gotta cut all that out. We can't just put a patch right over the top of that, that's gotta be cut out that area. And we have to cut it.
Yeah.
This stuff's pretty safe in just about every roof.
I'll get you down.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
You got it lined and then there's all roofer, maybe you'll get a thing from the building for you.
Yeah, so, well, you can exit out all this.
In the fine.
Yeah.
You know, outside of coding, DUR, imagine single plies might be one of the most common roofs you guys have seen at least in the last 10 years. They're your white membrane roofs. If you know how to weld, they can be permanently fixed. If not, if you guys aren't carrying heat guns, you guys aren't doing your own repairs and that, you can do temporary repairs again and reduce those. If this is gonna work, because there's a couple different types of single plies. You got TPO and you got PVC. They're both complete opposites of one another. So what sticks to this doesn't stick to this, what sticks to this doesn't stick to that, except for this, as far as the temporary goes. And honestly, any repairs that you wanna do on a single ply roof, get yourself safe with this. Urethane sealant, and stay away from anything black. If it's white, stay away from black. Cause that stuff will ruin it and we'll end up having to tear all of
If you don't have any of this, best you can do is duct tape, do X marks the spot, duct tape it down. And then you always know where the spot is, needs to be fixed later on, duct tape.
If you smell the PVC one, you'll be able to tell the difference between the PVC and the TPO spice them. Not necessarily on the road. but-
Most of the roofs you guys are on are probably gonna be, I mean, so PCs are on schools, hospitals, airports, more, data centers. And most commercial buildings are TPO.
Yeah, the PVC is a more expensive system, so it's one that you consider.
Yeah, it's really more specific to areas where there may be chemical exposure on the roof, like to the airport, jet fuel. I've seen them in like heat plants, turkey plants, things like that, that you use something like that, because they're getting a lot of chemicals on the roof. You see places like that, that typically you're gonna see a PVC, because they're resistant to what those chemicals do, where TPO will.
The only thing with this is that if you're not heat welding, then most of your permanent repairs are gonna have to be done by an authorized roofing installer.
And I see there's some pictures of it there, but can you kind of go over, since we do have a lot of TPO roofs, can you go over how that's fastened and maybe like what some areas that, I know some areas that kind of comes up and people get really worried and it just kind of how it's fastened and then when to be concerned?
So as you can see here, this guy's, he's fastening the membrane about 12 inches on center. Should be standing on this side, but, so this sheet will overlap. You can't really see there's a line here. So the next sheet's gonna come over here and they're gonna take, the machine's done. They're gonna take a hot air welding machine that's gonna go all the way down the seam. After this is all fastened and heat fuse that, which basically becomes more or less monolithic once it gets heat fused together. So this is a mechanically attached system. So this is on every single seam, about every 10 feet.
But underneath that in between, is there, isn't oftentimes there's just not really much there or it's disconnected.
It just depends, on like that last photo that was on there, you got an installation board where you got random installation fasteners, which is a wider plate, a thinner fastener. What you can commonly see depending on, your wind exposure and the type of system is back out, which I think is what you're
Yeah.
referring to. That's when these fasteners start backing out and they look like little pinheads coming up through your membrane. If you've seen one here or there, it could just be that the contractor just didn't get it driven down well enough. And if you guys, I mean yourselves, you could literally cut it, screw it back down tight and put a piece of tape on it. But again, unless you can heat fuse the patch, you're gonna have a roof, you're gonna have to do the permanent fix on it. Now, if you get up on a roof and you're seeing these little tents all over the place, now you got an uplift issue.
Yeah.
And you need to call contractor.
So maybe that's where there's bay doors were left open during the storm, and the air came into the bay doors, it goes out right up the building and rip the system up.
And that's, I think, more of what I've seen on a couple of on those type of applications where something has happened and, I mean, the whole system's almost lifted, it's attached around the perimeter almost, but the whole TPO system's almost like lifted and free from the, from the roof.
At that point, we still need to come do an inspection,
Yeah,
figure out who the manufacturer, for the membrane is, get the manufacturer out there, they come and do a warranty claim and so forth.
Yeah, we sell warranties on all the single ply systems we do. So if we do a job like this and we see back out that's more than just one here or there, we're definitely gonna go out, inspect it, and we're gonna get a manufacturer follow.
Yeah.
Because at that point, they're gonna look at wind reports, your geographical area, the type of deck you have, and we may fix it, and then we may add more fastening, so it doesn't happen again. So definitely good to know, one here or there, not a big deal. Again, to get the permanent fix, you'll need to call us, but no need to panic. You get up and you see 50 of them, we've got an issue, and you're gonna wanna get rid of that, take a look at it. Single. Yep. So there's different types of fully adhered systems as well. This is kind of a ribbon fully adhered, low rise foam ribbon system with fleece back. They'll do a naked back which has no fleece on it with solidly adhered with adhesives, water based or contacts. Those you're not gonna see fasteners. You may see one here or there, maybe around a curve, around, maybe along this wall, maybe around some AC units, you may see some fasteners on the membrane, but for the most part, it's gonna look smooth and monolithic across the roof because it's all fully adhered. You're not gonna come across too many problems with those systems. If you do, it's gonna be a gouge, a hole, pinhole, someone dropped a knife, someone dragged, the side of a HVAC panel, when they're doing a repair on a unit. And again, you can fix those with this temporarily, call your roofer will come out.
You'll typically see these on concrete decks, so even then, if you get a leak, it's gonna take a minute for you to notice, because it's concrete deck. Not to say that you don't wanna get it out of there, because it'll damage the insulation, allow things to be able to lift it up and cause some problems, but it's not gonna react as quickly as the other one.
Yeah, on a system like this, you're probably gonna find any damage by just doing a biannual inspection. Going up and walking your roof and going, oh, there's a nice tear in my roof. Because again, with the adhesive and the concrete deck, you're not gonna see that for a while. Okay, question?
Yeah, typically the warranty on those roofs are about 10 years. And before the warranty comes due, should have the manufacturer, not the manufacturer, the installer, which is always tough to find who installed it. Have them come out, but they usually say that your warranty is void because you didn't keep it clean. So what do you guys recommend in washing these two types of roofs down?
I would call us, because we'll tell the manufacturer BS.
I've never heard of something like that.
Majority of these roofs, you should be getting a 20-year warranty, and cleaning is not part of the maintenance. Cleaning will increase your reflectivity, which will increase your energy savings on your building, and you can just power wash. Simple drain, a little water diluted. Manufacturers may even have recommendations. They should have cleaning recommendations for the type of roof or manufacturer it is. And you can go up and clean those every 5 to 7 years. and you'll increase your reflectivity a little bit. By not doing that, you're not avoiding it.
If a roofing contractor is telling you that the warranty is void because you didn't go with their maintenance program and you didn't hire them to go clean out the drains and clean out the scuppers and that, they're just using it as an excuse not to come deal with whatever you're asking them to deal with.
Now, the caveat to that is if you don't maintain your roof and you reset all of your roof and, mechanical panels set all of the roof.
Screws everywhere.
Screws everywhere, now that's a totally different ballgame. So that's when they come and say, you have to bring on the roof. The reason it's gonna hold, it can hold moisture, it can also hold more heat, so it can cause damage to the membrane from allowing this debris to sit on it, leaves and stuff like that, you wanna let that sit on it, it'll deteriorate your membrane.
And the one thing, if you are gonna clean the membrane roof, never pressure wash it. Ever. Pressure washer will take the poly, I don't know the exact term.
Middle
but
thickness.
It'll take the top layer of alloy off of the membrane and will let the sun and the sun's UVs deteriorate the membrane. So never, I don't know how many new construction jobs we've done where the special guys that came in after us and they get stuck with stuff all over and then they don't tell us they pressure wash 10 feet out on the parapet walls. And then the GC gets mad and everybody gets upset and he's like, I gotta replace this. I don't know what to tell you. You didn't even ask me, I would have told you that, pressure wash it,
They let it get it.
Now you can see that the alloy, you can see like a little different tint in the around the perimeter walls of this clear story. And it's a constant problem of new construction, so. If you are gonna clean it, don't use a pressure washer. The best thing to use in the past we found is like powdered laundry soap, bleach, put it in the hose, just. Be careful because you can slip aside, you don't want it.
Well, and to touch on what Doug said too, the roof can be dirty, but we can't have, you can't have an inch thick of mud in the drains with little plant lives starting to grow up with it. That's when a manufacturer may be like, yeah, no, we're not covering. But as far as you're talking about all this membrane here, turning dusty, you're fine. There's no issues with that. Any questions on single ply? Well, these can be restored as well. So PVCs are a little more challenging, even though they are coming out in coatings now. They can go over PVCs, TPOs. Can you do it?
Yeah, you can coat over TPO, primer, single ply primer you put on there and you can.
I was gonna say, I've done silicone over TPO. I didn't spray foam over TPO. We've got it mechanically attached to snap the snot out of it. And then we spray 2 inches of foam, acrylic coating over the top, and cut out our flashings and base flashings around curves and foam up those. So these can be restored without having to completely re-roof it. Foam roof would technically be a second roof, so if you were doing foam over it, you could only have one existing roof there. But restoration, if you had 2 roofs already and we wanted to do silicone over the top of existing TPO, we can do that. Yeah, silicone.
What about rippling throughout like the entire roof of a freshly installed roof?
Freshly installed, it's okay.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It comes up all the time.
It's funny because back when him and I installed single plies together, we kicked our sheets very tight. So we want our roofs perfect when we're done. The membrane shrinks so bad it started ripping away from fasteners. So they want it installed relaxed. It should be, at least with the TPOs, it should be relaxed. You're gonna see some speed bumps or whatever at first, and what you'll find, month after month, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter.
It goes through an expansion contraction process, but it's brand new. It has to be in the elements and usually takes like the first winter cycle, winter or summer cycle for the membrane to all relax. But every new job we do, every building owner, every engineer, every general contractor wants to say something that I have to get a letter from Carlisle Firestone manufacturer that says this is normal, guys. It has to be loose. And you'll notice on a brand new roof, a brand new membrane roof, if you go up there early in the morning, it's tight as a drum. But then the sun comes out and the sun starts hitting it, the membrane gets hot, it gets looser, it relaxes, it's wrinkly, and then at night it tightens back up, and then during the day it loosens back up, and it goes through that process for a good 3 to 6 months before it gets to the tightness that it's gonna be throughout the cycle of this plant.
So after 6 months, it shouldn't.
Yeah, it happens faster in Arizona. It takes longer in other areas, in other states, but yeah, I mean, after one cycle, one weather cycle, you should be good. It should be back to where it needs.
If anyone complains, just schedule your meeting with them early in the morning.
Yeah, well, seriously. Like, they're 6 a.m.
Yeah. The time.
So, that's all I saw.
Talking about repairs on this roof, though, you don't want to use a mask on it. You don't want to use anything black on this, because you don't want that white against that black. They heat and cool differently, so it can cause other problems in your roof. So you want to make sure that you're not using mastics or you know, like any controlling products and anything like that. You want to make sure, again, you're using turbine. You can also use an acrylic coating with 3-coursing method as well as a temp repair. It's not gonna be a long repair. You can use that as well with the fabric and the coating like you talked about with the wet pattern. Just instead of using the acrylic coating, you do that 3-quarter.
Yeah, if you got something small, you can use a tube of polyurethane top, you know, just to temporarily to get you sealed up. I mean, it'll stick. But again, permanent repair, you're gonna have someone come out and actually put a patch, these patch on it.
I think we're dispelling a myth that if you touch your roof when it's under warranty, you're gonna avoid the warranty. All these temporary fixes we're talking about are perfectly fine to do, as long as you're not cutting into your roof and doing all that stuff. I mean, if you throw a little bit of caulking or one of those patches or whatever it may be, you're not voiding
Yeah,
it.
boy, you're right. It just means that if somebody comes out to fix it later.
Now, if you're not 500 of those over 20 years, they're probably.
Right. It should be temporary.
But
Yeah.
To get you out of a pinch, in the middle of monsoon season, if your roofing contractor says it's gonna be 2 weeks, and there's 5 storms lined up between then, and you can do something.
Hey, you know what, take a photo before, take a photo afterwards.
Yeah, just a little CYA.
If you're in a storm and all you got is black stuff, and we told you not to put black stuff on there, but it's gonna stop the building from leaking, put the black stuff on.
Yeah.
We'll just have to cut it all out.
Just don't leave it there long periods. of time.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of people do.
Yeah, we'll have to cut it all out and refix it all after the fact. But then your warranty will be back in good standing. Now, you leave all that black stuff up there and call the manufacturer out. Your warranty. But yeah, you stop the leak, as long as we come back and do the correct permanent repair, you're fine.
Well, the company that has the warranty on it, if you do a roof penetration, you have to use them if they're the ones that install the roof and warranty it.
Well, let me clarify that. If it's within the first 2 years here in Arizona, you need to use that contractor, because they're into the RLC, they're under that. After the first 2 years, you do not use the same roofer. You have to use somebody that's certified as a manufacturer, which we're certified with every major manufacturer, but you don't have to necessarily use the roofer that install it. So say you had a bad experience with them, you're not stuck. You can call another roofing company that's certified from that manufacturer.
And it doesn't void the warranty.
But the way the warranties work, if you get a brand new roof and you're buying a 20-year, no dollar limit warranty, the manufacturer makes the roofing contractor own it for the first 2 years, because they figure that if there's any problems with the way we installed the roof, it's gonna happen in the first 2 years, and we're gonna have to go back and fix it. After that 2 years is up, it goes on to the manufacturer. Then the manufacturer is the one that's on the hook for it, and they don't care whether they'd rather the guy who installed it fixes it, because it's our relationship with the owner and you guys or whoever. But I don't know how many times we get phone calls from the manufacturer or emails through their portals, and they say, will you accept this? And there's been an issue where the original contractor doesn't want to go out there anymore.
Or they went out of business.
Or they went out of business, or whatever the reason, but any certified contractor who's certified to install their product is allowed to work on this. Yes, sir.
When they, on a single ply roof, they still advisable if you have, roof vents, call on those to get rid of moisture.
The roof
I mean,
vents,
if you get a little cut in your membrane, you get water underneath the deck, and then you seal that one cut, that water's not going anywhere, you know?
no, that's a touchy situation, very good question, you know. They do have one-way vents, and they're typically for 100 square feet per one-way vent, right?
Yeah.
So, but you have to have more than one, because if you throw one vent on the roof, it does nothing. You have to have 2
Well,
vents, so air can
The
circulate.
whole network of vents, they're plenty of.
If you have a bunch of vents on it, you got water over your roof, and there's other issues there, and that's the fix without having to turn the roof off and do what they should have probably.
So,
You know, you ever get a brand new roof with one-way vents, if you have a brand new roof with one-way vents, it's usually over a lightweight concrete that has moisture in it. Now you may have a lightweight concrete deck there, that is creating the slope of the roof, typically you see lightweight concrete where they're creating the slope over a structural concrete deck. And sometimes that lightweight concrete still has moisture in it, and they have to put maintenance in, but it's a very rare thing. So if you got vents on the roof, there's probably a bigger issue.
Yeah, and if you've got water trapped, they probably should call a leader. You should probably get a contractor out there and take a look at it. Cause that's not right. You know, you shouldn't have that.
We would never go to a roof and say, oh, man, there's water here, we can put a bunch of vents up there. We would figure out where the water's coming from and deal with that situation and then address it accordingly, but just like it should be.
I'd say the biggest thing, so we kind of jumped this, you guys talk about all memory, to talk a little bit about kind of preventative maintenance, talk about warranty a little bit, I know we're running out of time, you guys have a long day, so. Don't want to drag you over too much, but, you know, if you come into monsoon season, these kind of play hand in hand, the big things you want to do, you want to make sure you're getting out there and looking, before you're paying somebody or you're having somebody come out and do an inspection. So you need to do that, we recommend, and most manufacturers recommend it, you know, biannually. They can either, you do it one time a year, some only one time a year is what the manufacturer recommends, but we recommend that you do at least twice a year, maybe even quarterly. So, the benefit of that is if you only wait till the end, you have a mechanical contractor up there, and you have a tenant that went for the tenant, you don't know anything about it. You're gonna catch it sooner if you're doing inspection more regularly, and again, yes.
So just to clarify, most 99% of our buildings and our engineers it's a monthly PM for our guys to be on a roof and doing an inspection. So if we're talking monthly, I mean, our general, right, is looking for debris, cleaning roof drains, that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you could maybe point out more detail, what should they look at? Because a lot of times we don't know, we go up there and we know to clean up the debris, we know to clear the roof drains. You know, look at caulk joints, obviously, that kind of stuff, or the caps but you know, yeah. If you could expand on what else.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of depends on the roof system, but when you're coming to like your single ply, any roof system, I would look and see if you see any integration, that can be the first thing. Because again, we see it so many times where the tenant goes in and has somebody come in and do something up there and it's not correct. You know, they didn't flash it right, or you have somebody that comes on a TPO roof and foams around the curb that they put in when it's not really flashed correctly, right? So those are big things. Look at the curves, you guys know about the caulk and stuff. You know, if you get leak areas, you're having problems, you can always check the seams. The seams are gonna be one thing, but usually if you're having problems, it's gonna be around the curves. That's where you have more, you know, more oil around the curves, there's more likelihood that that's where they damage that around that curve around the penetration. So take a look at the curves. You know, your wall flashing as well. If you get on the roof and there's the sun shining on one wall for a majority of the time, that wall is gonna start breaking down quicker than the rest of your wall. So keep an eye on those walls. Make sure that you're looking to make sure that there's no damage there, even towards the bottom of the wall. A lot of times you'll see on roofs that get over, that scrim will start to show, the backing will start to show there. Just keep an eye for those. So, you know, kind of think about how the sun goes across the roof and where it's hitting. Those are the areas, and then the perimeter. That's between curbs and the perimeter roof. Those are typically where you see find 99% of your stuff. Other than, like I said, curbs, we, you know, trade damage there as well.
Well, single ply is gonna be mainly caulkings on your perimeters, on your walls.
Yeah.
So it's gonna something you gotta say. When it comes to the single ply warranties, the only thing that the manufacturer doesn't guarantee for 20 years is any caulking or sealant. So if you have pitch pans, if you guys know the term on pitch pans, where you got a little box that's full of a hard sealant that has a bunch of penetrations coming through it, look for cracks in those. And then look for the caulking at the wall if you have like a counter flashing on the walls. Other than that, there shouldn't be anything on single ply that you really got to do except for keep the debris off it.
And pitch pans is a great point. In pitch pans as well, pitch pans are supposed to be kind of so the water doesn't pond in there. If they're ponding in there, then those need you have a roofing contractor come back and put a 4 seal back in there, fill those back up and keep them top up. It will break. And so you want to be sure it. Try to stay away from pitch pans, both manufacturers try to stay away from pitch pans, but you may see them on some of those, so those are a big need inside of the airport. Any questions on the single ply and kind of what you do there?
When replacing a foam roof, do you need to increase the R value to the underside per the city of Phoenix code?
I don't know what Phoenix code is. If you're not tearing off, typically no. That's my experience with any places that we do. Now, if you go to Colorado, it's a whole different thing. They're gonna make you put solar on the roof if you do anything to the roof. So here in Arizona, and maybe you have different experiences I have, but if you're not tearing the roof off, then we don't typically see that making you increase the R value to be a better standard.
Thank you.
So it's kind of like any other things, if you're grandfathered in to that roof and you're just repairing it or adding a coating, you don't have to change it.
Typically, it's when you tear it off that you now have to go back.
Need a new.
You don't meet the code requirements at that point once you tear it off. So Another benefit of coating and not tearing off. Yes, sir.
The material that you have there for temporary fixes, like for instance, we have a roof that is a Firestone roof and in the warranty it says that you can only use Firestone product. How would you go about if you don't have the Firestone product, making a temporary repair?
You can do the temp repair with this as well. Firestone's not gonna take a void warranty if you do a temp repair with something like this. It's if you left that temp repair on there and you didn't come back and do a permanent patch with Firestone, that's when you're gonna get it. So if it's a temp repair, they understand, you gotta stop leaks, right? I mean, if it's raining or just rain and you get the roof cut off, you're not always have a heat gun to go up there and weld it and be able to put a patch on it. So they understand that. And they may even sell a product. I don't know if they do or not, but most of these are universal and they understand that. I mean, it's pretty common in the industry that all of them know that if you have to use a turn bond or a tape like this, that they know that that's pretty standard and it's just a temporary repair. Yeah. The big thing to think about is temporary repair and permanent repair. So many times I see people doing all these temporary repairs and then they forget that they're going to get a permanent repair done. And that's where you get yourself in trouble with the warranties. Is when they don't do that. That's when the manufacturer gets a little freaked out. Is when we see those things happening. Any other questions on single ply stuff? Yes, sir.
Are there still any ballasted roofs out there that are still put on that these days?
Usually you see it in the Northwest, you see it in the East Coast.
Northeast, Pacific Northwest, there's still some out here, I mean, it was a big specification a long time ago, so. They're very challenging. I've got one right now, they wanna go back with ballast, and I'm doing everything I can to talk them into fully here and get away from the gravel altogether. It's a nightmare chasing leaks on a ballast roof. Back in the day, they didn't do their transitions correctly, because they thought the rock would hold everything down. And as these membranes shrink over time, they'll shrink so much, they'll move the rock. And then ultimately they rip and split, and they're a nightmare. They're tough. I would call a roofer, you come across something that's.
You're never gonna catch that tear. Once that tear starts going, it's gonna keep tearing all the way down. They're tough. Another thing you have to think about with ballasted roofs as well is that your energy efficiency on the interior and the exterior can be way different than if you have like a TPO roof or a white wood coated roof. That, I mean, your temperature is gonna be, the cost of their, cooling the building is gonna go down by just getting rid of ballasted roof.
Yeah, most of the strips you see in Arizona are, have pavers on them. So like walking decks and areas, whereas in the Northwest and in the upstate areas and the East Coast and anything northern states, they still do a lot of black EPDM. And that has rock and roll, the whole thing. A lot of BMR roofs have rock and roll. There's not so much in the southern states. It's more of a fabric.
Any questions? Any other questions on that?
Fun fact about single ply. The start of this canal layer, sometimes you realize that you can keep water in. That's probably keep that out.
So we kind of talked about the inspections, we talked a little bit about some of the repair methods. I mean, really the list of stuff you need for repairs, I would say a roll of return bond, a bucket of butter grade sealant, acrylic and silicone, roll of fabric, it's what we call Tytex. But a roll of fabric, so you can 3/4 medium, 3/4, and probably some kind of a mastic that you can also 3/4 with.
It's a good, can you tell us what I've heard so many different versions of this or what should be used, but when we're talking like any single ply roof or anything that has a flashing or cap, what is the best caulking or what should be used on that? Cause I've heard people say different types of caulking,
Really,
different material.
I always say,
Yeah,
Is it acrylic caulking?
Yeah.
the stick to anything and you can peel it off and peel it off the bread, you can patch it over.
Yeah, probably.
Polyurethane.
That's generally what you're making good other people. Yeah.
So.
Acrylic's gonna be the most widespread that you can use on just about everything.
Yeah, that's right.
And not getting.
I like polyethers just because they're plastic tubes, so they don't get ruined or blast. There's no solvents in them, so they don't crack and split, and they stick with just about anything too, but they're harder to find and they're more expensive, so. Acrylics you can get Home Depot.
Yeah.
I mean, Lowe's, yeah.
Biggest thing is making sure it's dry and, there's not a bunch of dirt when you're doing the same concepts. If you're painting something over on the wall, you don't want to paint over dirt, it peels off. If you're putting the caulking down or something, so you don't pipe it down first, really good. You might be.
Well, think about it too for your substrate. If you're going to put this down, don't scrub the roof. Take a little bit of simple grain or something, scrub the roof, use a green scratch pad, wipe it down real good with a rag, and then put it on top. right? If you don't give it a good clean surface, it's not gonna adhere, and that's gonna be with coating or anything you do, you make sure you have a decent clean surface, right? That you put it on, that it's not flaking off, that it's not all dirty. Good luck with some ballast and roofs, because they're paid to get clean, if you're trying to patch those, those are a big pain. But yeah, I mean, and the way your stuff is pretty simple, arsenal. The other thing is chip brushes. I don't know if you chip brushes are, but you can get them at Home Depot. There's little tiny brushes. I meant to bring some, apologize. But they're cheap brushes. You know, you get probably I usually use like the 2.5, 3 inch brushes, and you use that when whatever you put that down. So if you're putting it down, putting it on the fabric, it allows you to press it in that fabric, it allows you to come back, same thing with the mastic. But chip brushes are really good. Recommend that you wear gloves, because if you get some of the mastic on your hand, you're not getting it off. Use polyurethane caulk, you're not getting it off. So make sure that you're using gloves. I think of other good things that you do. Oh, one thing that I would recommend too, especially if you're using mastics, is you get those orange wipes. You can also get those at Home Depot or hardware store. Use those, you can clean off your equipment with that, and that'll help get that mastic off, that'll help get, you know, some of the other things that you might be using, like the tape for this right here is a little sticky, so if you're using shears or scissors, to get that off there, you can use it with orange wipe for that as well. So have a good trip. Use it 4 times? I did use it. So what questions do you guys have? What did we miss? What did we?
And if there's something big that we didn't get to, I mean, we usually tell the guys they can start leaving at 6, but if we need to run a little long and there's some good info out there, I think most guys will stick around for another 15 minutes if they need to, but it's up to you guys. I don't know if there was any big thing that we missed or not, but.
I think we kind of hit home the warranty stuff.
Is there any online questions?
No, I read them.
Yeah, I'd say with warranty is think of any warranty we buy, the manufacturer's covering themselves, right? So you gotta do everything, you make sure that you're following what they're asking, because they're covering themselves, they're giving themselves a wide array of things to get out of it. So just make sure that you're very careful when you're looking at stuff. A lot of times you're gonna run into things that are aesthetic, they're not gonna be warrantable. People get freaked out about that. We call them blisters that are not, you know, not exposed, or they're not ruptured, but that's not a warranty item, it's an aesthetic item, they don't like that. So just something to think about is to determine, is it aesthetic or is it an actual damage thing? And then from there, determine, is it trade damage? Is it, or is it an actual, if you see a seam failing on a CPO roof, that's probably not trade damage, right? But if you see gouges all around the canopy, you're gonna know what you got there. That situation is not gonna be a warranty item. Your caulks, your sealants, those things like that, you guys don't, anything that's a wearable part like that, those are things that are not gonna be a warranty item. People somehow don't understand those are warranty items, but it's no different than changing the oil in your truck or whatever you gotta do. You gotta maintain your roofs. And so, those things aren't gonna be things that are typically covered under. Yes.
So during a lot of my inspections, I find like low elevation areas, and then I'll go through to my next inspection 3 months later, and the water will sit in one spot. So is there something that we can do for temporary repairs to fix low elevation areas that carry
Is there a
water?
specific type of roof system you're thinking of?
Yeah, like a foam.
Like a
The
foam roof?
ones that are kind of wavy where.
So about the only thing you can, and it'd be tough for you guys to be able to do yourselves, is you can actually 3/4 those waterways, you use a 40-inch fabric and you use a high tensile strength coating on that. And then you can come in on those waterways and you just build those up with that, and then it has more strength on those. Otherwise, you're really not gonna have much luck with that. You really want to make sure if you're getting those areas and they just starting to appear, look at your deck, make sure that you're not having a problem with the deck, that there's no deflection, there's nothing going on with the deck, there's no damage there.
It's usually those areas will start to deteriorate after a while.
Yeah. Coating does not like ponding areas. So, and remember, ponding areas are not necessarily like bird baths, and ponding areas are different things. So bird baths are typically gonna evaporate in 48 to 72 hours. Or ponding area is something that's be there all week long after it rained, and it didn't rain another day. That's a ponding area. So if you get ponding areas, you want to address those, because it is gonna be a problem. It may not be this spring, but it's going to eventually be a problem.
It is deteriorating the coating fast.
Yeah,
It's definitely gonna get the same UV light that it's supposed to be based on the thickness of the bills that we put on there. Right.
Well, think about it, that's where your debris also is gonna settle, your dirt, your debris, it's gonna heat up that coating more, which is gonna degrade the coating quicker. I mean, it definitely is gonna cause damage.
Cool, thank you.
What else? Anything else?
You guys ever seen a green roof?
A green roof? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Put it in green roof, yes.
There's plenty here in Arizona.
Green roofs in Arizona, so we have done a couple of green roofs here in Arizona where they have outdoor patios and have actual grass on the roof, things like that, yeah.
Any unique vegetation?
Yeah.
Like. Put together 25 years ago in Oregon, and they were first roofing, We went to go roof the greenhouse and we almost drove right by the house. We had no idea. And we finally found the house. There was a guy out there, it was all metal. The guy was mowing his roof. I'm not kidding, he was mowing his roof. We had to dig out 18 inches of dirt to find the membrane single ply roof underneath of it, to do these little repairs. And I wish we didn't have cameras like that back then like we do now. I have pictures, just, you know, but I wish we would have took some pictures of that. It was the coolest thing you ever saw. It's just a little mound in the country, and it had windows and a door, and the whole thing was, like, if you're thinking green roof, like it was, the guy literally out and like once a week and mowed his roof.
Only
Right. True.
So one last thing that we can provide for you and to be able to help you guys if you need help on stuff like this is, you know, we do offer a free additional, especially when we come out and do a roof inventory of the roof. So when the guys come out, they take a look at it, we provide a roof inventory, and then we offer an online portal where, you know, you or the department manager, whoever wants to be able to look at that, you give access to whatever you want. But they can go through and they can look at the deficiencies, they can go through and look, that's the inventory, what's wrong with the roof. So we do it for a problem now, it's gonna be a problem, that's something that we can help you with as well. If you guys are ever looking at that or interested in that, we can help you. You know, like I said, it's nice to be able to see it all in one place.
And we have a big team in Vegas, so you guys are open to go there if needed.
We have an office in Vegas.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, we have an office in Vegas, that's actually our second largest office.
Good.
Yeah. Any other question?
Anything else, guys? No? Guys, thank you very much.